In this presentation, we're going to talk about writing a technical report. We're going to split these up into two types of reports, an academic and business report. The business report is used to present applied research results to an internal and external stakeholders of an organization. An academic report is used to present research to scholars and managerial level professionals in a different setting usually. Here we have a table of showing what is contained in the proposal, which we've went over before, and what's contained in a final report. In general, reports are usually looked at as a standardized template or the format already exists in order to help you present your report. But you'll find things such as the title page, the executive summary, acknowledgements, and then from the proposal, you'll also add results, discussion, conclusions, and recommendations. As you can see, it also includes the things listed in the proposal such as the table of contents, list of figures, intro, theoretical foundations, lit review, hypothesis and research questions, and methodology. So let's go over these a little bit more in depth. For the final report, you'll have the title page, which is going to list the title of your report and usually the names of the individuals that are contributing to the report. The abstract or executive summary really is a short summary of the entire report. So you're looking at a very quick introduction, a very quick background, a little bit more about the results, and then a little bit more about the recommendations. In general, you want this to be half a page to a page at most. Next, you have the acknowledgements, where you're just going to give thanks to everybody that helped along the process, whether this is developing the project, helping collect information for the project, or even helping disseminate information about the project. Then you'll follow that with a table of contents, which is a general table of contents with headings. In Microsoft Word, you can set this up to generate automatically if you can do it. And then after that, you're going to have a list of figures, tables, and appendices. So kind of like the table of contents, you can have a table of figures, table of tables, and table of appendices. If you've got very, very few figures, tables, and appendices, you can merge them into the table of contents. If you've got many, if it's a large report and you've got a lot of figures, tables, and appendices, you want to have those tables separated out. Then you get to the introduction, where you introduce the topic and why you're doing the project. Theoretical foundations, so what theory are you using or what theoretical background do you have? Then you'll have the research question and the hypotheses. So depending on what kind of research you're doing or project you're doing will depend on how this is formatted. But basically, what did we want to know and why? And then if you have a prediction, that's where your hypothesis goes as well. Then you'll move on to the literature review, and this is going to be just an extensive and exhaustive review of previous research that's going to aid in helping you design your methodology, your framework, and all that kind of stuff. But again, it needs to be as exhaustive and extensive as possible and as needed. Then you'll move on to methodology, where you'll just describe the method by which you facilitated information gathering, usually. In some cases, this could be more of a or gathering of information, so like a literature analysis, on into a very formal set of methodology with blind studies and double-blind studies and such like that. And we went over different methodologies previously, but this is where you kind of detail that out, and you want to make it as detailed as possible so that somebody can come behind you and go step by step and replicate your study. Next up is the results. This is really where you just highlight and showcase your analysis. So whatever analyses you completed, you're going to have those in there with whatever came of those analyses. And sometimes this will be as simple as I found 45 people like the color red, 22 like the color blue, and so forth, on into I ran a backwards regression, and this is what I found, and so on and so forth, whatever it may be. It's the next section where you're really going to put some what I call meat on the bones. So you're going to really discuss why the information you found is important and relevant and has meaning moving forward. So if you found 22 people like the color red, why is that? How is that? What does it mean? All that kind of stuff. Just a general discussion of the information. Sometimes the conclusions and recommendations are together, sometimes they're not. Conclusions are making a final statement about your data. Overall, I found that most people prefer the color red versus blue, or most people prefer Coca-Cola over Pepsi, or whatever you find. You're going to make a final conclusion overall based on your results and discussion, and then maybe with recommendations, you're going to give some ideas as to how to use this information. So if we know more people like the color red than color blue, if you're a store, you might want to stock more shirts that are in the red color schemes rather than the blue or whatnot. Or if you're starting a new business and looking at what kind of soda you're going to look at, more people prefer Coca-Cola over Pepsi, perhaps. So you're more likely to sell more if you have Coca-Cola versus Pepsi versus the other way, right? Followed by references. So this is just a list of references that you have cited throughout your works. A lot of that will appear in the literature review and your theoretical foundations. Just make sure that they're cited well, cited correctly. I know in our field we use APA. Other fields use other ones, such as Chicago, MLA, and stuff like that. Just make sure you're consistent. This is just a listing of them all. And then finally, your appendices. And this is where you're going to have Appendix 1 and have it in the background, or have it right after that, whatever that may be. I would say only use appendices that are absolutely necessary. If you're trying to show somebody what this looks like a brochure or a flyer or whatever it may be, only use it if it's absolutely necessary. If you can link to it, so if it's an online document that you could just provide a link to, do that instead. Another thing with appendices, if you've got a table or a graph or a figure that goes over one page in length, so you can't put it in the document without it bleeding over to a second page, then you're going to put it in the appendices as well. But that's it for those. So what is the abstract in the executive summary? It really is a synopsis of the entire study. And just like it says here, you want to be able to, for this information to stand alone, you could take this away from the rest of the document. Somebody can read it and understand it. So what I would say is take everything off except for the summary itself, or the abstract itself, and read it. And if it makes sense, you're in good shape. If it needs information, like, if you decide to remove the header or the title or anything like that, and it doesn't make sense, then you have to work on your executive summary. As we mentioned before, the acknowledgements are usually a thank you note in some capacity. You want to name any individuals and organizations or agencies that help support or facilitated your study or your project. So it's important to name the individuals that helped you out, but it's also important to name or thank you and thank organizations or agencies that were important to your process as well.